strategy for nuclear weapons. Under the new nuclear posture review, the U.S. for the first time is pledging not to use nuclear weapons against non-nuclear states that are in compliance with the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. But the policy leaves open the possibility of a U.S. nuclear strike against Iran and North Korea and other nations accused of violating the treaty. President Obama addressed the new policy earlier today in Prague.
Earlier this week, the United States formally changed our policy to make it clear that those nuclear weapon states that are in compliance with the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and their non-proliferation obligations will not be threatened by America's nuclear arsenal. This demonstrates, once more, America's commitment to the NPT as a cornerstone of our security strategy. Those nations that follow the rules will find greater security and opportunity. Those nations that refuse to meet their obligations will be isolated and denied the opportunity that comes with international recognition. That includes accountability for those that break the rules. Otherwise, the NPT is just words on a page. That's why the United States and Russia are part of a coalition of nations insisting that the Islamic Republic of Iran face consequences because they have continually failed to meet their obligations. We are working together at the United Nations Security Council to pass strong sanctions on Iran, and we will not tolerate actions that flout the NPT, risk an arms race in a vital region, and threaten the credibility of the international community and our collective security.
That's President Obama in Prague just right before the broadcast. Jonathan Schell, is this all about, is the significance of this right now, meeting with the Russian president, about Iran and trying to push Iran to support sanctions against, trying to push Russia to support sanctions against Iran?
Yes, it's very much about Iran, and it's also about North Korea, where, of course, there are similar efforts in that case to try to get them to roll back their nuclear program, because North Korea is, of course, already a nuclear power, having tested 2 weapons. I think it's a little bit complicated, but I think it's very important to zero in on this exception to the no first use policy. Let me try to go through it just for a moment, if I may. Before the treaty was signed and the nuclear posture review was released, there was a lot of talk in the media about whether the United States would adopt a so-called no first use policy. And what that means is that the U.S. will use nuclear weapons only for the purpose of deterring against other nuclear weapons or retaliating for a nuclear attack. In other words, no other military purpose would be served. And the Obama administration came out with something a little bit different. It said, we'll give those assurances to almost all countries, but except those that are not abiding by their Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty obligations, meaning for the time being really Iran and North Korea. And those countries will be subject to possible nuclear attack, even if they do not attack the United States first with nuclear weapons. Now, these 2 countries have implicitly, or really explicitly, been placed in the nuclear crosshairs of the United States. And think for a moment, just pause and think for a moment of the message that that sends to the rest of the world. Here's the United States, the greatest nuclear and non-nuclear power in the world. And it's saying we're not able to face these 2 small, poor countries that have nuclear programs without threatening to use nuclear weapons first upon them. I personally can't conceive that this policy has any relationship to any reality, and I pay Obama and probably any American president the compliment of thinking that it's unimaginable that they would ever use nuclear weapons first against either of these countries without any nuclear attack coming from that direction. But the message here is absolutely lethal and deadly from a non-proliferation point of view, because it says that nuclear weapons really do have uses for countries, and even for the great United States, great power such as the United States, facing such poor and weak countries as Iran and North Korea.
The issue of Putin versus Medvedev and their relationship with the United States, is the United States trying to separate them, Jonathan Schell?
I don't see any daylight between them on the arms control issues. Putin seems to be a little bit more unfriendly to missile defense planning by the United States than Medvedev, perhaps. But on this issue, I haven't seen evidence of that.
We want to thank you very much, Jonathan Schell, for joining us, leading advocate for nuclear disarmament, fellow at the Nation Institute. His book, The Seventh Decade, The New Shape of Nuclear Danger. His latest article is in The Nation magazine called Reaching Zero. He's joining Daniel Ellsberg and others speaking tonight at 7 o'clock at the Ethical Culture Society in New York City. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. We're broadcasting on over 800 stations on Pacifica and NPR and low-power FM and college and community radio stations. On